Hello everyone, Don Bodenbach here, and welcome to week number 2 of our series called Mastering the 10 Factors of Longevity. And last week, you remember, we spoke about declining hormones, and we also talked about those big, powerful hormones that control your metabolism called insulin, adrenaline, and cortisol, how important they are in your longevity. Well, this week, we're going to talk about preventing oxidative damage, and we're also going to talk about how to protect and restore your DNA. This is your genetics, extremely important. All right. Do you guys remember, it was years ago, we had a Surgeon General's name was C. Everett Koop. He's the guy that came out and said, we need to eat 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Now everybody remembers that, everybody knows that. The thing that's really interesting, though, is very few people know and understand why he said that. And here's the reason. They did a huge government-controlled study, and I believe it was called the Designer Food Program. And the information that was coming from that study was so compelling about how 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables were supplying an adequate amount of antioxidants that had such a profound effect on your health, meaning anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, all the big diseases, that are such a problem in our society. These things were having an extraordinary impact on our health in general. So here's what happened. They got so nervous about how the government may end up with a bunch of class action lawsuits because they weren't telling people this, that they hurried up and got that information out to all of us. They had to make a decision. Hush it up or tell everybody. So, of course, they decided to tell everybody. So 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. The primary reason behind that was because of the unbelievable protection that it offered us, and that's what preventing oxidation is all about. Fruits and vegetables contain pigments. Inside of those pigments are the antioxidants, and these antioxidants are very, very powerful and protective, and that's the best place in order to get them. Now, if you want to ruin your health and you want to create tons of oxidation inside of your cells, then what you do is pretty much stick with the standard American cuisine. Like, go to 7-Eleven, get a hot dog and a Big Gulp, which is basically 64 ounces of toxic sugar water, and then after you're done eating that, get yourself stuck in traffic and get extraordinarily stressed out, and then what will happen is you'll create more oxidation and more damage. The only thing you could do worse is probably get a lethal dose of radiation. All right, so point is, fruits and vegetables and the antioxidants are incredibly protective, and then the things that we're doing to ourselves on the other side, incredibly damaging. But look, we know there's also things like air pollution and other problems that cause oxidation. So it's a great idea to take antioxidants. You guys know about them. There's vitamin C, vitamin E, B vitamins, selenium, zinc. Those are all good. Then we also have things like specialty nutrients like coenzyme Q10 or alpha-lipoic acid. Good too. My preference and what I believe are the most potent and powerful antioxidants are what we call functional antioxidants, and you get them out of certain plants that have very interesting, potent compounds. Now, if I was pressured and said, you got to pick 3, and that's it, because there's thousands of plants out there that have really incredibly powerful antioxidant protection in them. But if I had to pick 3 in all the years that I've been doing this, this is what they would be, and this is for you. Number 1, it's a plant extract called curcumin, turmeric. Curcumin extract, powerful anti-inflammatory. Number 2 would be Rhodiola rosea. I love that plant. This is the most amazing stress-relieving rebuilding compound that I know of, and it is also a powerful antioxidant. And the third one, got a lot of press here in the last few years, is called resveratrol. They need to be standardized extracts. They've got to be of high quality, but these things are incredibly potent and incredibly useful and beneficial for you. Okay, the takeaway lesson is this. 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. There couldn't be more compelling evidence for something that has been so beneficial, so scientifically studied, and so proven than that little bit of advice right there. Second thing is you got to stop the abuse. I know that we've become a society of hot dogs and Big Gulps, and but even to think about it differently is how is it that you can actually maximize your diet, your water intake, and all the things that are necessary to keep this thing healthy. That's going to prevent oxidation. So looking at being as healthy as possible is what preventing oxidation is all about. And the final thing is to really protect yourself, is to use those functional antioxidants. there's a lot of antioxidants out there. The reason why I talked about those functional antioxidants is because they're very powerful and they're full spectrum. So you're going to get a lot of mileage out of those plant extracts. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about your DNA. I love talking about genes, and the primary reason is I learned a long time ago. Look, the media, they can blow a lot of smoke in our ears and fill us up with a lot of nonsense, right? The medical establishment, they failed us in a lot of ways. Supplement companies tell us what we want to hear. The diet and supplement industry, it's a 95% failure rate, in that industry. So what I learned is these people can fool you, but you cannot fool your genes. Your genes are the ultimate truth teller. Let me read something to you just to illustrate this. This is from a book called Genome, and this is all about the Human Genome Project that was done in order to unravel the human DNA. Our genes do not, in and of themselves, give rise to disease. Rather, in most cases, disease results when the individual elects a lifestyle or diet that alters the expression of the genes in such a way that the weaknesses or uniqueness of inheritance factors results in a phenotype we call a disease. Okay, let me interpret that for you. Here's what it means. You cannot play Russian roulette with your genes. Your genes demand a quality food supply. They demand adequate and optimal amounts of pure, clean water. They demand a certain amount of activity. They demand rest and recovery cycles, and they demand that you utilize protective substances in order to help your DNA to continue this cycle. They always get a little bit of damage, but it always gets repaired. So there's a cycle that goes on, and you need those protective factors in your body in order to do that, right? But there's also an element of your genes that not many people talk about that they require, and that is they require direction. They require self-worth, self-love, self-value, self-respect. When you have that feeling inside you, then there's a message that's constantly being communicated to this universal intelligence inside human beings, and your genes are the ones that are listening. All right? So you've got to protect your genetics, because something called genetic expression is what the scientists are talking about, that are saying if you genetically express in a good way, then your genes are designed to keep you optimally healthy for an entire lifetime. If your genes express in a bad way, then what that means is all the problems that we have are essentially the way in which we're treating our bodies and our minds are manifesting through our genes, and our genes are putting the information out and saying, this is what's going to happen to you as a result of your lifestyle. That's what they were saying there. So here's the interesting part. Genes are sort of like a weak link in a chain, right? Genes are like a chain, and there's a weak link there. Every human being has zillions of these genes, and within the framework of that gene there could be strength or weakness. That's what they call a genetic strength or weakness. All right? What you're trying to do is live a life to where you don't mess with that weak link in that chain. That's the idea. So the more abusive we get to ourselves, the more we're going to get in there and find those weak links in those genetic chains, and then you get something called genetic expression, and if it's bad, you don't want it. What you want is your genes to express what they're designed to express, how it is that you were built, why you were born, and why you're here, and that is to constantly and continuously express health and happiness, so to speak, because the mind and the body are all connected. How do you do that? Well, remember those functional antioxidants that I talked about earlier? That's the best way to protect your genes. Get yourself on a program with these powerful and potent plant extracts and functional antioxidants, and I can guarantee you, you're going to do a lot of protection of those genes. Now, because of the fact that I said earlier, your genes never lie, they are the representation of your lifestyle and how you're choosing to live. And if you got problems, then you can put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak, by cleaning it up and living a life that's far more healthy. That's the only way you are going to prevent all this genetic expression and genetic damage that's occurring out there. Okay, ladies, life-factor.com, which is what we talked about last week. I'm going to let you know that again. There are a supplement program in there. One's called Factor Up AM and PM. everything that I've talked about last week, this week, and the weeks coming up, that supplement program is something that I want you to look at because it's all in there. Okay? Now, the final thing, if you guys remember, the book Prolonging Health, Mastering the 10 Factors of Longevity. I highly recommend that you get that book. Again, here it is, Dr. James Williams. You can get it on Amazon.com. Everything that I talked about this week is also in the book. Next week, we're going to talk about impaired detoxification, and we're going to talk about impaired protein synthesis. Now, don't let the boring titles fool you. This is extremely interesting stuff. All right? Until next week, live long and prosper.